one of these. I think same for Javier. But it's great to have you guys here. Great to be in front of you again and chat with you. Get the opportunity to talk. Today we're going to talk about AVS, and Javier's going to lead this conversation. Javier, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Xavier Elizondo, and I've been with Microsoft just over 4 years, 4.5 years. I live here in town in the north side in Rockford. We live actually like about 5 minutes apart, and my focus in the Azure space is in the infrastructure side and cloud adoption. This solution, being Azure VMware solution, fits right there in that area, and also in the areas of migration and modernization. Nice to meet you, everybody.
Yeah, for those that don't know me, my name is Mike Sweany. Like Javier said, live in Rockford with John and Javier. We're all in the same area. I've been at Microsoft for about 6 years also, so Javier and I are a little bit longer than Javier, but we kind of grew up together in that infrastructure space. I'm more on the sales and technical side now, and yeah, I'm here to support him and give some little color commentary. So, all right. With that being said, anybody have any questions before we get started? I guess first question from me would be like, do we have VMware users in the house that are impacted by the Broadcom stuff? Anybody considering AVS, or is this more of a learning session?
Learning.
Yeah. Cool.
Is anybody in the more like the infrastructure side, the application side? I know a few are on the application side. John, Joel.
Raise your hands. Couple. Okay. Not really, but okay. And then the rest are development or what?
Data.
Where you raise your hand at? You're infrastructure. Okay.
Data side. So, as many have been working with VMware or applications running on the infrastructure of VMware, everybody knows VMware is a hypervisor, and much more than a hypervisor. It is a platform at that point for private clouds. Right now, it is being a little more buzz because all the acquisition about VMware that happened lately and all what that also entails, and particularly with some of the aspects of the pricing, particularly for renewals for customers that are with Broadcom and the new changes on the licensing packages and some of the areas that Broadcom is also dismantling some of the the VMware services. But particularly outside of that, there are many other aspects on why customers are looking on leveraging a solution like Azure VMware solution. And this is one of the lineups areas why customers that we see are moving towards the consumption of this service. Just in a high level, Azure VMware solution is a managed VMware solution, and it is Microsoft managed, and there is some responsibility from the customer side. But this is a Microsoft first-party solution that is engineered by Microsoft, and before the Broadcom acquisition, it was co-engineered with VMware. Now, under the umbrella of Broadcom, still Broadcom is involved, but this is a first-party solution from Microsoft.
I'm gonna jump in there. So, like, if you guys are looking at, if you're looking at AVS as an option, we're not the only player in the house. Google also has a VMware supported service that Broadcom supports. AWS used to. They're kind of falling out of favor with each other. And then obviously there's other platforms like the smaller data centers maybe providing solutions for you as well. So we do have a few different options out there, but I just wanted to call that out there. It feels like Broadcom's focusing on their top X amount of clients and really focusing on them, and then they're leaving it for like us and Google and the other people to fight it out on how we bring people in. So we've got a pretty mature offering that I'll let Javier continue to.
Sounds good. Yeah. As I was mentioning, one of the main concerns or drivers for why customers are leveraging this solution is for licensing. Right now, Broadcom has launched or released a very disrupted licensing to existing customers that can increase costs up to 10%, 10 times than what it used to be. So that's a very aggressive customers. I don't know if they were spending, I don't know, 1 million, now they're spending 10 million potentially, just astronomical numbers. Other main reason is closure of data centers. As we know, there is a shift from the capex to opex, and that is just keeps increasing. And that's another reason. And all the other software end of life cycles, XYZ cycles that go tag along with VMware. There is an opportunity to close the loop and start moving into an OpEx model. Also, urgent capacity needs. This is common in some, e-commerce customers. I used to be focused in the retail space 2 years ago, and this was common when the AVS solution came out. It was a way to provide that bursting capacity for customers to be able to slide workloads into public cloud, particularly in holidays, starting with Thanksgiving and all the way to, Christmas. It was easy to expand those workloads. Either could be like priority workloads or non-priority workloads. That depends on customers, like moving things to the side and then shrinking back again. So that was one easy way to do it that way. And other options, security threats. We know security right now is also critical, and many attacks and many pressure on hardening environments. Um, Hardware refresh, that kind of goes along with a little bit of the data centers and budget and resource constraints. Many times to do a hefty, opening the pocket to get more hardware for new workloads or applications is difficult. And the other one is to extend and scale apps. This is a little bit similar to the hardware refresh and the other areas. But this is the top needs that, or the reasons why we see customers moving to these workloads.
And I'd say right now, the conversations we're having with our customers, it's the licensing. It's 100% the licensing. It's that, like Javier mentioned, I've seen as high as 5x in the customers I work with, where they've dramatically improved. We're talking multi-million-dollar a year customers for them. So they're trying to push us towards something like AVS or like competitor for it.
Now, VMware workloads, if we look at where could I shift those workloads applications, that is typically, if you want the easy button, in the sense something that you are already familiar with and it's just kind of like sliding right and easy, that would be with using the Azure VMware solution. Easy and, quote unquote, right? But if then there is no pressure with data center access and license and all those different reasons, we always have going to IaaS or PaaS services, right? When applications are just monolithic and you have the time, or people have the time to start actually transferring those into directly into either PaaS or IaaS, that is the most two cloud destinations that we see. This is a combination or both. We see customers moving some applications to VMware solution, and then from there starting to modernize into IaaS or PaaS, or doing a combination either. So this is really depends on the situations.
Yeah, I'll comment more on the slide. So on the Azure VMware solution, one thing that is important to consider if you guys are looking at it for the first time and you're a smaller shop, we have a 3-node minimum. So you can't just move one via VMware vCenter up. You need to do 3-node minimum. And then this is changing down here quite a bit. We have a couple models, like the model today is it includes the licensing, so you don't have to go out and buy licensing, and it's a stable licensing model that we have. Where we did just introduce BYOL licensing. So if you have on-premises license that are not the ones that are in perpetuity, and then more of a subscription-based model, we can carry those over, so that cost is not lost if you decide to use AVS.
So really quick, why do we sometimes say migrate to modernize? And we know that shifting workload sometimes doesn't bring much value, even though it is flexible and in certain circumstances it's nice just to slide them. The main reason on today's, as of today, is to modernize applications, to do better, to get more value out of those applications. And this is to leverage in the ecosystem that Microsoft has and Microsoft Cloud, all Azure services plus non-Azure services, Office 365 services, and the whole Microsoft ecosystem is to leverage really what is out there, not just to move those applications into lift and shift perspective. And at the end of the day, that's to improve business results. Um, Capabilities that we have with Azure services. Many of you may know some of these services. This is just like a sprinkle of the typical services that we see customers consuming. Of course, right now we have everything with OpenAI, OpenAI Studio services, and all the lateral services when you are building applications with OpenAI will consume in the data and analytics side. It could be also leveraging other areas like data lake fabric, data factory, but also integrating with logic apps, bot services, automations, and SQL DB, for example, native SQL DB, Cosmos DB for more distributed applications. But this is again a sprinkle of why moving those workloads into the Azure space makes sense to leverage these services almost at the get-go. Nothing here. We call it that is accelerating because it's fastest way to move those workloads and leverage those services. At the same time, potentially innovate the applications and leverage potential existing Microsoft licenses that Mike was already mentioning. This is a little bit of the same. Particularly to moving the applications to the Azure VMware solution, that's considered more like as is, because you are going to transfer those similarly, because where is a managed VMware service, so there is not much change on the VMware platform. It's like at that point it would be like you are having your other co-location space, but Microsoft manages everything. But in the look and feel is very similar to what people will be used to VMware. There is some caveats, and I will detail a little bit more on that, on how it looks. Some customers are not leveraging the full latest potential or the latest VMware services. They may be more leveraging other lesser capabilities in VMware. But now moving into what, yeah.
So I just want to add on that last one. I don't know if you're going to talk about this. I'm stealing your thunder, but like we talk about how this is fastest migration. This is a marketing slide, 100%. Fastest migration option, familiar, consistent, 100% familiar, consistent. But migrating is like, it's one of those things where if you come up against that license issue and you want to move, it's not like you're going to be on Azure VMware tomorrow. It takes some time. There's a networking configuration that has to be set up that's quite complicated for some of our customers, and they get in the environment and making sure you have the protocols that need to be enabled and everything to do the vMotion stuff. So just want to, Russ, if you had challenges with that, or yes, all right, I see the heads nodding. So yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's our big hang up. It's the global reach and how they do the express routing with
ASNs and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly. So it's not even. And honestly, like, so right now what's happening is a lot of people are looking at it, and people that have been around and gone through these, struggled through them, we're giving real guidance. Our guidance is AVS is a good solution if you got a ton of processes and everything built up. 100%. Let's go down that path and explore it. If it's not, I'm pushing native quite a bit, to be completely transparent.
Right.
But the issue for us is all the stretch VLANs and things that we've done, all of the sins of the past have really come back to bite us. So it's pretty easy when you have two data centers with 96 strands of fiber to do whatever you want. Yeah, right. Exactly. And then now it's like you got some constraints around it instead. It's a little different. Yeah. So that's, I wanted to call that out. Go ahead, John.
So not IaaS background, but how does AVS play with virtual machine skill sets? Are they different technologies?
They are totally different. Yeah.
When I hear VM,
Yeah,
I
no
think of
worries.
VMSS.
Yeah, totally different. Virtual machine skill set is more like a first party service. I mean, VMware is also a first party service, but it's completely managed service, like vSphere clusters, servers, like typically customers manage. All that is abstracted. Microsoft manages. They just expose, like imagine one cable that they give you to, which is a private connectivity to the solution. I'll explain that in a little sooner, but it's totally different abstraction of compute. They don't live in the same space together. Yeah.
So for me in my role and work and stuff, what situation do you propose a VMSS solution or an AVS solution?
This is particular, like Mike was stating. This is for customers that I already laid out all their infrastructure on VMware, and they don't have the time to transfer it in, convert it to an Azure IaaS native, and they just need to slide it, like be motion it to another VMware data center that happens to be the Azure VMware solution, and they just land with not much change of the abstraction layer. As people are aware, the VMware virtualization abstracts the hardware layer, and then it is shifting, those virtual machines, virtual servers into another cluster happens to be, sitting with us and Microsoft bare metal infrastructure.
Yeah, one other note on that. I mentioned earlier, like the licensing is driving this a lot, but what is also driving it is you've got a data center that you need to evacuate for whatever reason. Most data centers have VMware running in their environment, so this gives them an option if they don't want to physically do a data center move to another co-location or whatever. They could use us as an option.
I mean, I can see a big M&A activity, right? And it's not required you get out of the data center in 6 days.
Yeah, that'd be a good play. And then when you talk about like VMSS, like that's a good play. If you're gonna my opinion is if you're gonna take the move and you're gonna move to Azure, there are gonna be a lot of things that are different anyway, even in AVS. So it depends on like how many processes you have built around it and all that stuff. There's a lot of discussion that can go into it. We give we give the guidance to our customers that's based on what your business decision is and what your driver is, and then we try to help guide them.
We have customers that have serious processes, pipelines, and things that for them to change them would take a long time, at least 1 to 2 years. So these customers are the ones that are really looking into this because they don't have time to change. They don't have time to tweak things. They might have time to just tweak a little bit here and there, but not much room for change, and they need to move fast. And this is the best bet right now to move them the most seamlessly possible with no change. Once they are there and they don't have pressure of, oh, we gotta close this data center or whatever, then they focus on the actual transitioning to either IaaS or PaaS directly. And also, this is not a infrastructure problem, is also a solutioning the modernization on the workload or the application, because applications some are so monolithic that it is so hard to change them into something more modern, like an app service or even a virtual machine skill sets. So this is just a quick snapshot of the footprint where Microsoft exists. Like everybody knows, like we have 60 plus regions, but particularly for VMware solution, the footprint where we have the service, there is more regions coming out, but we also have some other, I think I will mention in a slide later on, we're also expanding into Gov cloud. So it's not just a commercial cloud, but it's also moving into Gov. So for customers that are global and they need clusters, again, like VMware clusters in different geographic locations, this makes sense. They are dropping, they have data centers that they are migrating those workloads into those regions. So this may not apply for maybe the audience here, but is relevant to some of the customers we are seeing. Any questions so far? So, quick overview of what this means. Typically, for the VMware technology stack, we have a the underlying infrastructure, the servers, blades, whatever it is sitting on top of the hardware. And then we have that, which is the ESXi host, and that it could be hyperscale, it could be even sometimes we've seen a few customers that had standalone hosting in there with some obscure applications that they would, oh, by the way, we have in the corner over there sitting something else too. But it could be clusters, it could be standalone hosts, whatever it is, the abstraction of the infrastructure, the storage, compute, and network in this area, which is a data center where customers have the applications, and finally, the hypervisor and the VMware, which is the management side of all the VMware platform. So this is connecting that data center to the Azure VMware solution, which it is the Azure Space, and this happens either through ExpressRoute, which is the dedicated connectivity to Azure, or VPN. Those are the main means to connect to the VMware solution. On our side, we have similar, again, the managed private data centers or the private clouds, which is very similar. The only main difference is that the stack that VMware solution runs is on vSAN, where customers could have whatever storage over there. We necessarily, or we run it on a vSAN, and this is to Mike's point earlier, that the minimum requirement, or the requirement, is 3 hosts in a managed cloud cluster, because it is designed that way for redundancy, resiliency purposes, to be able to sustain the host failure. So that's why there is 3 minimum hosts in this cluster, and we can kind of scale up to X amount number. I'll mention that in a minute. But this all is running on the VMware certified hardware. So real quick, this is the extension. Then once that connectivity is there, there is multiple use cases. You could run this with hybrid cloud, or if it is in data exit scenarios like we were mentioning earlier, that would be moving those virtual service virtualization servers into the Azure VMware solution by any means. In this case, we have the primarily tooling for migration for this type of workloads is using a VMware technology called VMware ACX, and that is the main mobility for the applications or virtual servers to move. And it is an abstraction layer over the regular network. It's a special tunnel to connect those sites and be able to move those. And like Ross and Phil, right? Remember? For whatever reason, I was forgetting your name, but there is also options to extend the networks that are in one data center to make it the same extension of that VLAN network IP address space into the VMware solution, and be able to have a seamless extension of the data center into Azure. That is nice and is very attractive, and many customers even run in some cases like that for a while, although we highly encourage to do it for migration purposes. But anyways, so this is how the VMware solution is crafted. At the end of the day, all this resides under the Azure Resource Manager, and the main identity provider for us is like any other Azure service is Microsoft Entra ID, and all the services that are available at that point to the Azure space, they can extend to that VMware private cluster managed solution, which is Azure Monitor, all our Azure security, and other Azure type of storage that I'll mention in a minute. And we do have partner solutions like, for example, Citrix for virtualization. Many customers that had Citrix on-prem, and they're looking to extend or move those Citrix VDI deployments. We have partnership with Citrix, and of course with also VMware Horizon now. Anything do you want to add?
Yeah, just to add on, this is huge for us this year. So we just started our new year in July 1st, and right now, I sat through, I don't know if Javier did too, but sat through a day of sessions in Seattle. They're doing the big powwows today, and OpenAI, of course, is top of the list, but security is being pushed at every level of our environment now. So we're focusing heavily on that. So in my mind, based on what I know, what we're investing in, and I know that where the company's going, like security is going to be our first thought. If you're considering VMware and Azure, you're going to gain that extra layer of effort being focused on the security side of it versus what you would have in your data center. So that's a good thing to think about as we go down this path. All that being said, I still love Azure Native, but I'm not going to derail the conversation too much.
Right. So as I was mentioning earlier, the VMware HCX is the main arm and muscle to do the migrations. There are other ways to do migrations, and even there is third-party other services that can offer for really aggressive migrations that we have seen customers like moving hundreds and hundreds and petabytes of data, aggressively. There is third-party solutions that do overall potentially better job than the native VMware HCX, but comes out of the box, and it is provided at no cost at this point with the VMware solution. So that's the main means for doing migrations, and there is capabilities to do bulk migrations. We have customers moving like hundreds of VMs a day, kind of like beam motioning between hosts. Is the same thing as migrating them between on-prem data center to the VMware solution. This is a little bit of maybe visually drastic on how the footprint of responsibility diminishes when leveraging the Azure VMware solution, because all the areas that was the responsibility of the customers, this becomes part of the VMware solution, what Microsoft is responsible for, or for the most part, what Microsoft is responsible for, and then you just consume the private VMware cluster or the private cloud just as a service. So this it is how it is now and after, and what the customer manages and what Azure or Microsoft manages. This is a little more zoom in into really the matrix of what is responsibility on all the components that conform the VMware solution. And we have the physical infrastructure, security, the portal, hardware failures, and patching the ESXi host, the areas of the networking, which is with NSXT. That's another main component on the contrasting with what customers could be leveraging on-prem. They may not be leveraging NSXT or NSX, but that is what the VMware solution is built on top of the vCenter, HCX, SRM, identity management, connecting to the VNet Internet, virtual machines, guest OS. If you see, the area of responsibility from the customer is really minimal. At some point goes from, in the point of NSX is still part of some area of customer responsibility, because customer has the capability of postponing some of the updates that are going to be done to their NSX components, but this is part of customer responsibility. And you see from here all the way to the right is most likely, well, most of it is the virtual machines, the guest OS, the applications inside those virtual machines, because that's at that point Microsoft is a black box for Microsoft, right? What the customers may be running on those ESX hosts is at that point customer provided.
Yeah, I want to add, one of the things that's interesting about this model is like when you're managing all this stuff here, you guys build your servers a certain way, right? You want to have a certain amount of capacity and plus whatever, so you can make sure you have resiliency and uptime. When you look at the AVS solution, you can put those more dense because we're managing all that infrastructure in the back end and patches and updates and all that stuff. So typically you'll find you'll get more bang for your buck in AVS than you will in VMware on-prem, but that's just a side note.
Now, a little bit with what John was saying, if I want to run just like a few things on virtual machine scale sets, can I just get 3 hosts and run it? Well, yes, but you may be wasting um, at that point money, because you're gonna get full 3 hosts to run maybe just a few little things. Really, those when we see the adoption of VMware is not just for running just a few things here and there. It's for where there is real commitment on running a large amount, or not necessarily a large amount, but something that makes sense to save money. If you are running a few things, yes, you're going to waste money. But if you are doing this at a scale, you can actually save money compared to IaaS, and it can get aggressively very attractive pricing given the conditions. It can be very good pricing, especially combining reserved instances, which is our larger commitments on term when acquiring a solution like this. Now, this is just a little bit of the breakdown of the different SKUs or tiers that we have. This is when the solution came out. It started with this SKU, which is retiring soon. That's what I'm putting in retiring. And this is kind of like the entry model now. And then it moves to a heavy SKU based on processor, not so much in the storage. And then there is a latest model that is the AV64, that this is particularly right now at this point in time for expansion. So you cannot just go and deploy with this SKU. You would need to seed it with one of 36p or 52, and then do expansions with this SKU. So this is kind of like our lineup of the horsepower for the ESXi host, and the minimum again that if you pick is 3 of the same model. You cannot mix match right now. Like you cannot have one cluster with this SKU and another cluster with SKU, and much less have a single cluster with a mix of those. So it will have to be one or the other. The only, again, the exception is expansion. You can expand with this SKU any of these 2 seats. Anything there? As for the software package, what comes with the solution, it is what is in the screen. It is a ESXi host, which is in the suites is what is called the vSphere Advanced Edition, and vCenter, vSAN, NSXT, which this is networking, and this is the migration software package. For scalability and how big can you get into VMware solution, the minimum is 3 nodes, maximum 16 nodes per vSphere cluster, and up to 96 nodes to private cloud instance. So a private cloud instance could have up to 96 nodes. If you want to grow above 96 nodes, you have to provision another cloud instance, which is another logical instance with a bunch of clusters inside of it.
Yeah, I guess the only thing to call out there is if you guys are considering something like that, a large amount of nodes, then we just work with your account team to figure out if there's capacity in the region you want to deploy to, because that has been a problem in the past. It's not quite as big of one now, but when you're talking 90 nodes, that's going to be very heavy duty from a power perspective.
Yep. So again, Microsoft Azure is the foundation. I would probably flip this the other way around. Microsoft Azure is the foundation for VMware solution, but particularly for workloads that have aggressive storage footprint or demands, we can extend with other services, first party and third party. Although this technically is NetApp and is a third party, but it's a first party service, we can extend a storage for the clusters with NetApp files, which in this case it would be NFS data stores. To you, we have some customers that they don't have time, particularly to large servers, filers, whatever they have on prem, to figure out what they can fit or not on the clusters. The vSAN cluster is a hyper-converged platform, so the hosts provide the storage, and sometimes there is more storage needs that the cluster can allow. So that's why customer expand the storage, both size and performance, with either of these 3 lineups. NetApp Files, which is, we would say, our most established solution extension for the private cloud. This is our second solution in the order of, I would say, appearance. And Pure Storage is the latest kid in the block that showed up to also provide similar services. Both of them, or the three of them, can yield a lot of IOPS given the right configurations. So this is on the storage side, how it can be scaled. We also have partner solutions, particularly native to VMware, a VMware Site Recovery Manager for this is for in the area of disaster recovery for customers that don't necessarily want the VMware solution as a way to shift the workloads, but more using it in a use case for DR. When something happens to the data center, they target the Azure VMware solution as an extension to the data center just to replicate to and treat as a either active, warm failover site. And we do have Certo and Jetstream. For those that has anybody seen any of these in the bottom, Jetstream, Certo, and nope. So some do, some not. I would say from the perspective of good, best, better, or potentially not to label them necessarily, but depending on the RT requirements, RTO requirements, Certo and Jetstream can achieve a lot more aggressive RTPOs. Certo is probably better known than Jetstream. Jetstream is very comparable to Certo, but Jetstream provides some additional, I would say, functionality to stage replication on blob storage and stream that or inflate those virtual machines from blob into real VMs in the private cloud in VMware solution. Faster than Certo could. Certo doesn't support that, so that's very attractive for customers that don't want to pay that upfront cost. So they will save money. The streaming, so a blob storage is cheaper than putting the replicated state into the VMware solution. So then they could quickly extend or expand the VMware clusters so that, and then hydrate those replicated state VMs and then bring them up faster than Certo could, and for potentially more affordable.
So for that use case, you probably have the three that you're going to do the extended contract on, get discounts. Is there still elastic bursting, like on-demand pricing in AVS? Is that available? No, like, so our pricing is by the nodes, and then we have like the discount pricing. So like you do those reserved instances like he's talking about, and make a commitment to 1, 3, or 5 years, then you can save significant amounts on that. But if like in a DR scenario, like if I've got three that I've got it there, I've got my replication going into it, and I'm not necessarily going to instantiate unless I have an event. Okay. Can I expand that out and pay by the hour while I need it?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have reserve instance and you're doing pay-go, yes, that's another reason why some customers go with this, because now, assuming there is capacity, if you have, imagine 3 and you want to expand to 9, that's not like a drastic number. But if you wanted like 25, that's another story. But yes, you could expand and extend your clusters to more hosts up to the maximums of that are allotted for the private cloud. And yes, then they hydrate into multiple hosts in the cluster to suffice the DR scenario.
Yeah, one thing that VMware has changed with VMC is they've stopped allowing on-demand usage at all. If you want to expand your cluster, you need to get a minimum year contract and pay for those upfront. Oh, so really? Maybe a competitive advantage for that use case. We do have, like Javier and I have both mentioned the capacity challenges. We have something similar to that as an option for our customers to pre-buy that time up front or that capacity up front. I haven't successfully talked to a customer that wants to do that. personally, but yeah, no, that's good. So that's a good call out there. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, in the non-VMware solution, there is one reservation called on-demand capacity reservations that you can, like Mike saying, is buy it, you have it available, and you don't fight with the other people around because you're prepaying that, but it's expensive. In the sense that, well, you guarantee that you are not gonna get any constraints of capacity for when you need it. In the VMware side, you have to buy the reserve instance and pre-allocate the capacity so when you need it, it is allotted already for you. You don't have to be asking for it, but that it will be a combination of the reserve instance to ensure that you will have X amount of hosts that you need. You can, and this is always the gamble. You can gamble not to prepay for that, but when you need it, doesn't guarantee that you will get the capacity you need.
The only time we run into that issue is like when there's major events going on in a region, and then we've already got capacity issues in that region. That's when I've seen it. It's usually been like Middle East type stuff where some main event happens and then everybody's pissed at each other and nobody wants to deploy in certain areas, but there's this central area where everybody is desirable to deploy.
On the capacity one, I'm wondering if you guys have run into this, 'cause I've seen it on the PaaS side where it's, I need six nodes right away. You spin up 6 nodes and it goes, no, you can't scale that quickly. You have to scale in increments of like 3 or 4.
Yeah, that's
Because
usually a
it's
support
already-
ticket, so we don't get people
Yeah.
going crazy. But that's a good call out. Yeah, like if you run into that issue where you want to spin up 6 nodes and you're getting pushed back from like the portal saying no, you can't do it, it's something that's most of the time it's easily avoided. They just needed that. Like if you got a brand new subscription and you're trying to deploy several $100,000 worth of stuff, they're gonna, of course, we're gonna check it, make sure you know what you're doing, kind of thing.
Right. For anything like is on demand and you need a lot rapidly, I would not just. There is a lot of planning that should have happened before that to guarantee that you're not gonna get black by that. But um, so this is a little bit of what Mike was talking about security, and the other areas is the security and how not just necessarily for the VMware solution extending the Azure security benefits that Azure as a also security organization provides to the VMware solution. That is not just for AVS or the VMware solution in Azure, but also can extend to if for whatever reason you are in a hybrid situation where you have both, it can extend to the on-prem data center via what it is Azure Arc. So here is just a little bit of the benefits of the security and defense, which is our Entra ID protection, data protection, all the network security, DDoS, which is not in there, but it is also some customers are front facing the security side on Azure and both for Azure VMware solution and potentially workloads in VMware. I'm gonna be frank that is not like happens a lot, but in some cases, customers are doing that they have Azure native services like app gateways, and then they are backend to both the Azure VMware solution and the on-prem private data center.
Most of the time, no customers go one way or the other.
Now, if we focus to extending that to the on-prem data center, that is using Azure Arc. And Azure Arc is another topic, but quickly explaining this is an extension of the Azure control plane and potentially also other services into the on-prem world, making that extension into, in this case, because we're talking about VMware, it would be Azure Arc for VMware vSphere, which is doing an integration with vSphere and discovering all that footprint of vSphere on-prem, not in Azure, and being able to extend all, in this case, with our tooling that we have, Azure Monitor is a prerequisite for that, and then adding Defender for servers, Defender for SQL, Defender, and we have a long list of defenders, and it will be extending all that security on-prem and expanding that security or gaining that security benefits into on-prem. And that is both for vSphere and Azure Stack HCI. Many customers that don't want to move their workloads to AVS or Azure VMware Solution or Azure, they're actually starting to look deeper into Azure Stack ACI, and we actually have some customers flipping into Azure Stack ACI and extending Azure Arc to Azure Stack ACI and making that integration more tightly. And replacing the all the vSphere platform, or sorry, yeah, the VMware platform on-prem with Azure Stack ACI. So we have some customers that, for example, the healthcare space where they have sensitivity of leaving the data or latency purposes that is not be viable to move those workloads to public cloud. They are extending to Azure Stack ACI, is still running on customers on premises. And both platforms, particularly Azure Stack ACI, with Arc can run also native services like Azure Functions and Azure SQL DB on-prem, like you would be running it on Azure. There is those integrations. So it is kind of modernizing or extending that modernization of the Azure Arc in your own private cloud. So those are kind of like the benefits of doing extending those benefits.
What's cool about like the Azure Stack ACI side is we're heavily investing in that. I've been talking to the program manager on that side, and one of the things that's neat about it, everybody here has probably been in the Azure portal before, deployed a VM. When you have this Arc-enabled agent that's connected to Stack ACI, excuse me, instead of deploying a VM to East US, you deploy it to where your Stack ACI instance is. So you have the familiarity of Azure, but it's actually all happening on-prem. So that's pretty cool. And then the Arc experience gives you that same experience too, where you're using Azure type portal resources or hitting APIs or whatever, and it's being actually happening at the device or the object itself.
And the last slide is a little more about the Arc and talking about, what it means to connect the Arc into VMware vSphere outside of the Azure space, and how to extend it, particularly to do the vSphere clusters on-prem. There is a resource bridge or VMware resource bridge. There is a liaison between the on-prem private cloud and the public cloud. That is kind of like the let's say proxy to reflect that state into Azure, and all the virtual servers would look like they are a VM in Azure native, but they happens to be that they could be either on VMware or a Stack ACI. But then you gain all those controls, they again monitoring security to all those VMs that are outside of Azure. It could be on-prem, could be in AWS, could be on GCP. Is just extending all that into other clouds, private or public clouds. And what is this about? Oh, this is more about the security posture, the Azure Bare Metal service for the VMware solution. It is all the security building blocks that those the solution is built on top, and all the solutions certifications now current for the VMware solution, and coming soon the Fed RAM High for public certified IL4, which is more in the highest security. So a lot of customers don't know this. We've got all these security background, but anyways, this is another customers that are trying to do encryption of the data with their own keys. This is also possible. In the past wasn't possible. It's possible to encrypt with your own keys. This is now possible. And this is just, I would say, marketing at this point. Again, we talk about potentially locking prices 1 to 3 years. Oh, I forgot, and this is very useful. Azure Hybrid Benefit and security updates are available to Azure VMware Solution. And this is good for free extended security updates on Azure VMware solution. And there is some type of, until the end of this year, there is incentives up to 120K for customers that are actually looking at leveraging the solution. So this is all marketing, but I was just going to share what the actual solution looks like, and with a demo over here. And this is just kind of quick showing how the solution looks like. So like anything Azure portal wise, um, you access the VMware instance through the Azure portal, and it's another logical component. The private cloud is just one object, and maybe it is because I don't have network, or I'm doing updates. It's Tuesday, past Tuesday. Oh, it have to happen. Okay. Okay, let me see if refreshing works.
While Javier's waiting for this, anybody have any questions? Anything you'd like to see in here?
All right, let me switch again. And it's gonna ask me for authentication, maybe. Oh, it didn't. Okay, cool. All right, so like any of the Azure, any questions so far? Any of the Azure resources like virtual machines, you have Azure VMware Solution, Blade, which is where all your private clouds will be available, and like any other Azure resource, this inherits all the the Microsoft Entra ID, which it is, if I'm just gonna select something here, it will be similarly like any other Azure resource. You will get your IAM access controls, RBAC, and it's doing the same thing. Maybe I should choose another one, but it will show the Blade with your RBAC permissions and many other. Oh no, okay, maybe that's not a good one. Let me see if I can select another one. I don't know, maybe this one. All right, it seems like that this is a better one. So there is a address space allocated to, like any data center that you would open up, you need an IP address space for all that is gonna be consumed. In this case, you also need a address space that is gonna be given to all the VMware management side, and that is gonna be a IP address black. And then you also need to pre-allocate some address space for your actual workloads. But this is an example. In this case, the location for this private cloud is in South Africa. And we can see here if it is just a brand new one, maybe it's the minimum 3 nodes. This is the SQ of the host. We have 3 hosts. If I wanted to add another cluster separate to this with another 3 hosts, I would add a separate cluster that I could grow it to, or add up to 16 hosts to this cluster. And then, you know, it's kind of like the scaling or whatever combination you want to do. But I could expand this cluster to more hosts, like you were stating. If I need more hosts, it will ask me, you know, how much is going to cost me. This is pay-go, and you would add at this point more hosts. It doesn't seem I have permissions on this host, but you would add the number of hosts that you want to add, like you know, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And see this right here, if you guys can't see it, you need more than 3 hosts, request a quota increase. That's what we were talking about before. It's usually a soft limit.
Yep. But this is how you expand them. You know, you just give me 3 more of this, and you don't, you know, worry about what is happening behind. All your hosts get added to your cluster. You don't manage it. You just consume them. So this is kind of like you know, managed service side of things. You could add another cluster, and then you have your VMware credentials for the the vSphere vCenter credentials. Because this is a managed service, we have a restriction on permissions for the out of the box credentials. They don't have the full-fledged like the administrator at vSphere.local that you would get on-prem. But this is a little bit of the look and feel for those that have never seen it. The same with the storage. We have the capability to add the storage. We could connect the NetApp files like we were mentioning, assuming that we already have provision, or we could pre-provision it. Right now we are seeing the default data store for it. We could also connect to Elastic-SAN. Right now there is no built-in portal yet for the pure storage. That's something will come later, but it will be probably potentially, I don't know. I'm not a UI designer, but it will show up here sometime too. We do have the data store showing up here. And this is for once the storage is provisioned, the data stores are applicable to the cluster. And we have add-ons. In the add-ons, it is for disaster recovery, what we discussed, and this will be potentially for site recovery manager, where we could pick the solution that we want. In this case, because we don't have any integration with a third party or a partner solution, it chooses by default the first party that is for VMware. And also the migration using VMware ACX. This is for customers that want to do the extension or potentially on-prem or migrate the virtual machine. And how do you actually get into the vSphere cluster once you have it up and ready? That would be through the connectivity. And that would be like some of you already have some experience in here. The connectivity will be connecting it to a VNet through a VNet, landing a potential VPN into that VNet or express routing to that VNet and routing it to this private cluster, or through express route directly. And this is express route, by the way. The private cloud comes with a express route circuit that is dedicated to the VMware solution. Since this is express route circuit, if you're familiar with express routes with Azure, you could do a tie-in of those express route, which is with express route global reach. So you could then interconnect this express route with the express route that your organization may have. And this is just establishing that express route global reach, which is the ability of tie those two together so that they can talk to each other. The routers that Microsoft manages, there is some type of a stitching on the back that happens so that those routers start exchanging the routes and be able to connect between each other. And we finally here have an AVS interconnect. And this is in case you have more than one private cloud. It will be to be able to do something similar like express route global reach to interconnect those private clouds. But all this happens on the Microsoft backbone network, that you don't have to do anything, with the only restriction that they have to be in the same Azure region. You cannot connect them across Azure regions. But this is just a little smear, a sprinkle of what the actual Azure solution looks like. At that point, when you gain access to this and to the vCenter, you can connect to vCenter, and it's going to be similar. You will see the vSphere management, and some of the differences with this is just the networking. Instead of having potentially virtual distributed switches, is going to be NSXT, and it's totally a different paradigm on networking on the VMware side, but that's a topic for another time. But this is in a nutshell what the VMware solution is. Any questions, any comments, any?
I think you answered it with showing the pricing slide. But
yeah, it's about a paygo is about 20-ish, 3 hosts a month.
Yeah. Small business, you may have one VMware cluster, maybe less than 20 VMs.
Yeah.
It's like this is overkill.
You probably only have one or two machines.
Yeah.
That's why I called out earlier, like the 3 yeah, at that point, if you're looking to get into Azure, looking native might make more sense because if you only have like 10 or 20 machines, chances are you don't have a lot of processes around automation built around that potentially. Right. That we're looking at like a cloud service might make more sense.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, this is for larger scale. Primarily, we have customers that are migrating hundreds of VMs a day, so they might have at least 1,000 VMs. I think the largest customer I saw it was like close to 10,000 VMs. So, I don't think I have more. I think that was it, and I think we're about time, right? Because I don't want to steal time of socializing. So,
Cool.
sounds good.